title, A Demon Experiment Gone Wrong. The air was thick with tension as I stood in the dimly lit basement of my long-forgotten family estate. My obsession with the occult had led me to this point, to a desperate experiment that defied all reason. The books I had gathered over the years on my trip to India, Greece, and Philippines contained forbidden knowledge, secrets whispered through the ages of summoning and controlling demons. I had always been drawn to the macabre and the arcane, but nothing had prepared me for the dark path I was about to tread. The ancient texts and grimoires lay scattered around me, their pages filled with cryptic symbols and incantations. In the flickering candlelight, they seemed to come alive, beckoning me to unlock their sinister secrets. The room was chilled to the bone, despite the warmth of the flickering flames. I could hear the faint echo of my own heartbeat, a rhythmic reminder of the impending madness that awaited. I had been warned by fellow occultists to tread carefully, that such experiments could unleash horrors beyond imagination. But I was blinded by my obsession, convinced that I could control forces that no mortal should dare to meddle with. The object of my obsession was a demon known as Mephistopheles, a name that had haunted my dreams for months. According to the texts, Mephistopheles was a malevolent entity, a keeper of souls, and a tormentor of those who dared to summon him. But I believed I could strike a bargain, that I could harness his power for my own ends. With trembling hands, I began the incantation, my voice shaky as I recited the words that would open a portal to the netherworld. The air grew colder, and the candles flickered violently, as if protesting my actions. But I pressed on, desperate to make contact with the demon I had so fervently sought. Suddenly, a burst of black smoke erupted from the floor, swirling around me in a grotesque dance. Panic gripped my chest as I realized the ritual was spiraling out of control. The room seemed to tremble, and the very walls pulsed with an otherworldly energy. Mephistopheles emerged from the smoke, a monstrous entity with crimson eyes that burned with malevolence. His wings were tattered, and his skin was a sickly shade of gray. His voice was a sinister whisper that crawled into my mind like a venomous serpent. "You have summoned me, mortal," he hissed, his voice laced with mockery. Fear paralyzed me as I beheld the creature before me, realizing the folly of my ambition. I had believed I could control him, but now I understood the true extent of his power. Mephistopheles' presence was suffocating, and I could feel his gaze piercing into the depths of my soul. With a wicked grin, Mephistopheles extended a clawed hand toward me, and I knew there was no escape. My experiment had gone horribly wrong, and now I was bound to a demon whose desires were as inscrutable as the abyss itself. Mephistopheles' clawed hand drew nearer, its grotesque appendages like skeletal talons reaching for my very essence. I stumbled backward, knocking over candles and sending hot wax splattering across the floor. The room became a chaos of flickering shadows, and the scent of burning incense filled the air, mingling with the acrid stench of sulfur that now emanated from the demon. I had expected fear, but what I felt was a paralyzing dread, an awareness that the very fabric of reality had been torn asunder, and I had ventured into a realm that should have remained untouched. My obsession had led me to this abyss, and there was no turning back. Mephistopheles' laughter echoed through the basement, a chilling sound that seemed to emanate from all directions. "You thought you could control me?" he hissed, his voice like 1,000 tortured souls wailing in torment. "You are but a pawn in the grand tapestry of darkness." I tried to speak, to beg for mercy, but my voice failed me. Mephistopheles' presence was crushing, as if the very weight of the abyss bore down upon me. He drew closer, his eyes burning with a hunger, and I could feel the tendrils of his power encroaching upon my mind. In that moment, I realized the true nature of my predicament. I had not summoned Mephistopheles. He had ensnared me in his own sinister game. I was a mere mortal, a plaything for a demon of untold power and cruelty. With a flick of his clawed fingers, Mephistopheles sent me sprawling to the ground. I could taste blood on my lips as I struggled to rise, but it was futile. The demon's laughter continued to reverberate through the basement, mocking my feeble attempts at resistance. As I lay there, broken and defeated, Mephistopheles' voice echoed in my mind, each word a torturous whisper. "You sought to control the darkness, but the darkness now controls you. You are mine, bound by a covenant forged in blood and folly." With that, Mephistopheles vanished in a swirl of black smoke, leaving me alone in the cold, desolate basement. I remained trapped in a nightmare of my own making. Mephistopheles' presence haunted my every waking moment, a constant reminder of my hubris. I tried to find a way to break free from his grip, to undo the terrible mistake I had made, but every attempt was met with failure. The demon's influence grew stronger with each passing day, and I could feel my sanity slipping away like grains of sand through my fingers. Shadows danced at the edge of my vision, driving me to the brink of madness. The demon's covenant had sealed my fate, and there was no escape from the horror that awaited me in the abyss. Time ceased to have meaning in the suffocating darkness that surrounded me. Days blurred into nights, and my once keen senses grew dull under the relentless assault of Mephistopheles' malignant presence. My body withered, and my mind became a barren wasteland, devoid of hope. In the solitude of my torment, I began to hear voices, whispers that echoed through the abyss. They were the cries of others who had ventured down the same treacherous path, the lost souls ensnared by Mephistopheles' twisted games. Their words were a cacophony of despair, a chorus of anguish that reverberated through the void. "We sought power," one voice intoned, its tone laced with regret. "But instead, we found only suffering. We thought we could outwit the demon," another voice murmured, its words tinged with bitterness. "But he is a cunning predator, and we were his prey." The voices grew louder, more numerous, as if the very walls of the abyss were alive with the lamentations of the damned. I was not alone in my suffering. I was but one of many who had been ensnared by Mephistopheles' cruel machinations. Desperation clawed at my soul, and I knew I had to find a way to break free from this nightmarish prison. But how could I hope to escape the clutches of a demon whose power was boundless, whose cruelty knew no bounds? I began to study the ancient texts and grimoires that had led me down this treacherous path, searching for any clue, any shred of knowledge that might offer a glimmer of hope. The answers were elusive, hidden within the cryptic symbols and riddles that filled the pages. Days turned into weeks, and I toiled relentlessly, my every waking moment consumed by the quest for salvation. It was a race against time, for with each passing day, Mephistopheles' grip on my soul grew stronger, his influence more insidious. Then, one fateful night, As I pored over a particularly ancient and weathered tome, I stumbled upon a passage that sent shivers down my spine. It spoke of a ritual, a dangerous and forbidden ritual, that had the power to bind even the most spiteful of demons. The ritual required a sacrifice, a willing offering of one's own blood and soul in exchange for a chance at redemption. It was a perilous gambit, a last-ditch effort to break free from Mephistopheles' torment. With trembling hands, I prepared for the ritual, knowing that my very existence hung in the balance. I drew a circle of protection on the cold stone floor of the abyss and inscribed arcane symbols within it. I recited the incantations with a fervor born of desperation, offering up my own blood and soul as the price of my salvation. The air crackled with dark energy, and the abyss seemed to recoil in protest. Mephistopheles' presence loomed over me, a looming shadow that threatened to snuff out the feeble light of hope. But I pressed on, my determination unwavering. The aftermath of the ritual left the abyss in a state of turmoil. Mephistopheles' howls of rage reverberated through the void. His power diminished, but far from extinguished. I had bought myself a precious reprieve, a momentary respite from his relentless torment. As the dust settled, I found myself standing on the precipice of a new and dangerous journey. My escape had not gone unnoticed, and Mephistopheles would not rest until he had reclaimed what he believed to be rightfully his, my soul. I knew that I needed allies, those who had faced Mephistopheles' wrath and lived to tell the tale. The voices of the lost souls that had haunted the abyss became my guides, their stories a map to navigate the treacherous terrain of my own damnation. One by one, I reached out to those who had ventured down this path before me, forming a tenuous alliance born of desperation. We shared our knowledge and experiences, pooling our meager resources in the hope of finding a way to defeat Mephistopheles once and for all. In the eerie silence of the abyss, we trained relentlessly, honing our skills in preparation for the inevitable confrontation. Each day brought us closer to the final battle, a battle that would determine the fate of our souls. But Mephistopheles was not one to be underestimated. He lurked in the shadows, biding his time, and when he struck, it was with a ferocity that left no room for doubt. He sent fiendish apparitions to torment us, twisted nightmares that tested our resolve and pushed us to the brink of despair. As the days turned into weeks, our alliance was tested by fear and doubt. Some of us faltered, unable to withstand the unrelenting onslaught of Mephistopheles' malevolence. But others stood firm, their determination unwavering. And then, the day of reckoning arrived. Mephistopheles descended upon us like a hurricane of darkness, his power at its zenith. The abyss itself trembled in his presence, and the voices of the lost souls cried out in terror. But we were ready, our resolve unbreakable. We unleashed our collective power, a maelstrom of magic and determination that clashed with Mephistopheles' might. The battle raged on, a cataclysmic clash of forces. As I looked around at my fellow allies, I saw in their eyes the same haunted determination that had brought us together. We were bound by a shared experience, united by our defiance of the abyss. We fought not just for our own salvation, but for the countless others who had fallen victim to Mephistopheles' cruelty. With a final, desperate surge of power, we banished Mephistopheles from the abyss, sealing him away in a prison of his own making. The powerful entity howled in defeat, his crimson eyes filled with impotent rage. As the echoes of the battle faded, I realized that my ordeal was finally at an end. I had faced the abyss and emerged scarred but triumphant. The demon's covenant had been broken, and I was free at last. But I knew that the darkness would never truly be vanquished, that Mephistopheles' influence would linger in the shadows, waiting for the opportunity to return. My journey had left me forever changed, a survivor of a battle that should never have been fought. And so, we left that accursed place, knowing that the shadows would always follow us, that the echoes of our desperation would forever haunt our dreams. But we were no longer prisoners of our own obsessions. We were survivors, and we carried with us the knowledge that the darkness could be resisted, that even in the face of the most terrifying horrors, there was always a glimmer of hope. The demon experiment gone wrong had left scars that would never fully heal, but it had also forged a strength and resilience that could never be extinguished. We were the ones who had defied the abyss, and in our defiance, we had found a flicker of light in the darkest of places. I opened my eyes and discovered that it had been an illusion all along, a dream blessed by the great demon. He had been playing with me. With a grin, he descended upon me, his presence a chilling reminder of the past. I tried to fight back, to summon the power to banish him from the abyss. But I was weakened by days, weeks, and months of isolation. He tore through my feeble defenses with ease, his merry eyes filled with vindictive satisfaction. In my final moments, I realized the true extent of my folly. I had thought that I could control the darkness, that I could outwit a demon of untold power. But in the end, I had only hastened my own demise. As my life ebbed away, I could feel Mephistopheles' presence enveloping me, his cruel laughter echoing in my ears. My vision dimmed, and I knew that I was lost.